All right. I think we're live now with our first official podcast.
So this is going live to your...
It's not going live.
Okay.
It was not approved by management at the 47 BJJ Co-op for us to go live first.
Oh.
It's FCC regulated. It needs to go through a moderation process before we can post it online. So we're not good to go live yet.
See this before you put it out?
I have to add a disclaimer that all opinions expressed on this show do not represent the 47 BJJ Co-op or any.
Are they worried about you or are they worried about me?
So welcome to the How's Your Ground Game podcast. We're here
How's your ground game?
With the Birdman Wash and Fold down in Vero Beach. My name is Damoon. I have a school here in Brooklyn with the 47 BJJ Co-op. And we've done this a few times. A couple burner fights, a couple burners, but this is the first
smokers.
This is the first official. So what's been going down in Vero Beach?
Training. Just the Gymnastica has been really pumping. You know, we did a lot of. We got some new faces in Gymnastica. We've got some, people just working, and I think it's helping, tremendously with everybody's overall, well-being as far as being on the mats.
That's awesome. Actually, Alvaro, the guy who started Gymnastica, I saw him. He was featured on UFC Brazil, I think.
Yes, I saw that.
So it's nice to see him getting some recognition in the broader martial arts, Yeah,
well, he was the trainer for UFC 1. He got everybody warmed up.
And even more recently with some of the Brazilian fighters, I think he's been in the background helping them prepare.
Damian Maia. That's the most recent, I think, was him.
It's not too long ago.
No.
But yeah. And then upcoming in the next, month and a half now, you got some clinics going on down there.
The first of the series of clinics is coming up, and that's soon they got it's like a 4-day, not really a camp, it's more of a clinic, I would say, because we're going to delve into topics, not just overall.
It's like a series of group privates.
Yes. It's like a bigger group private. It's limited. The max we'll have at any time is 12 people, 12 students.
And you put out 2 dates, July 4th, July 19th?
July 19th, yes.
July 19th is pretty much sold out?
There's a couple spaces left.
All right. And then do you have the topic for July 4th? Or is it kind of, as it gets closer, you'll announce that or figure that out?
It's going to deal a lot with being trapped on the bottom. So a lot of bottom of side control, bottom of mount. So it's basically going to be a very beginner friendly clinic,
awesome.
Which is always good information for everybody.
And then for people who've never done one of these clinics, what would you think is an important reason to try one of these clinics?
If you want to get better and you're maybe kind of get lost in the crowd at your school and you want to kind of intensify your training, just get an opportunity to learn a whole bunch to bring back to work on. So, maybe it's a series of, you do it, if we offer, I don't know, our goal is like 2 a month. If you can come twice a year, maybe 3 times, and chase the topics that you're having problems with, it can really kind of jumpstart your game a little bit. And it'll benefit you like long-term training.
And do you think you need to be like competitive? Do you think you need to be like, is this for like top level guys or is this
No. This is for, the 50-year-old guy who just wants to train Jiu-Jitsu, but he's in a room full of competitors. And he needs, I need a little something else, because that's the hardest person to start, is the person who doesn't want to get hurt.
Right.
That's your most challenging student. And I think more people don't want to get hurt than people who compete. Do you know the percentage of people, if you took all the people who train Jiu-Jitsu in the world, what percentage actually compete?
It's probably really small.
Take a guess.
10%.
3%.
Wow.
So as a school, why would you limit yourself to chasing 3% of the market?
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. But that 3% also schools generally give 90% of the attention to a lot of times.
Yes.
So
these
the
clinics
40,
are for the other 97%.
the 40, 50-year-old, who's maybe started jiu-jitsu later in life, he's kind of falling in between the cracks.
Yes. He's being overlooked. Right? Why should I invest time into this old guy? Because he's not going to compete. He's not going to do anything for me.
Right.
But yeah, those 50-year-old guys are going to do something great for me is because they're going to kick the crap out of the 25-year-old in a year.
Right.
And that's going to look good for me as a school or for you as a school when the 50-year-olds are beating up the young guys. Because then you and I, we want to send a message that we know how to teach jiu-jitsu. We know how to teach it to everyone. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do. We can teach it to you, and you can use it.
There's a note on that. I'm going to circle back to it a little bit later on that topic. Actually, I had something I'd been hearing in the jiu-jitsu spheres that I wanted to take on. But before we get lost in it again, so that's the week of July 4th. That weekend,
Yes.
Long weekend.
Yes.
In Vero Beach, and if they're interested, they can find out more information on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram. You can direct message me, private message me, whoever that is. Get in touch. We can get you all the information.
And it's like a 5-day, 4-day intense
4-day.
workshops, gymnastica, jiu-jitsu, a lot of individual attention.
Individual attention, a lot of Q&A, a lot of direct. Instruction, not just what's for everybody, what's good for the individual.
Right. Awesome. I was just, a lot of guys in the school were talking the other day. Did you see this thing that happened in Congress or in the Senate or representatives or something where a few women got into a back and forth and they were calling each other names?
I did not.
As somebody remarked on someone else's looks, and then they were, they're like, this is inappropriate. And then the other one kind of made like a little catty comment back or whatever. And it just got me thinking, like, we see like a lot of these crazy MMA fights coming out of like Eastern Europe.
Oh, yeah.
At what point do you think we'll see politicians duke it out? Do you think we will? Do you think we'll get it? Not necessarily the United States. Do you think you'll see like, in like...
Oh, in Russia, for sure.
In Russia, like the local, 2 municipalities, the mayor of this town, the mayor of this town have a one-off or something?
Yeah, well, this is going back years for me. Years ago, when Jamie was teaching in Bergenfield. Big Dave, who I've talked about before, comes in with 2 guys. And Big Dave owned a workout gym. He's like, these guys are like accountants or something, and they're just arguing in the gym. So he grabbed him and said, get in my car. He drove down, put him in the ring, and put boxing gloves on them. They lasted 12 seconds. That was it. One guy hit the other guy. They fell. They were both exhausted. It lasted a little bit. He's like, I'm sick of you 2 arguing. Get in the car. Drove them down, fight it out. And the last thing they wanted to do was fight. So, yes and no. In Russia, yeah, I could see it happening because obviously everything strange now is coming out of either Russia or Florida. And
do you think we'll see 2 Florida mayors duke it out, like in a pay-per-view boxing match?
No.
Okay.
No, the people who get into politics don't really do stuff like that.
That's true.
They don't. They talk it. They don't walk it.
That's fair.
It's so. Yeah, I don't think so. You're not going to see celebrities do it. The Zuckerberg Tesla fight is never going to happen.
Okay.
It's just good hype for everything.
What do you think of the upcoming? Was it Tyson and the YouTube guy Jake Paul?
It's a carnival, right? But that's what boxing has turned into. Boxing has just devolved so much because of MMA.
It just become like really entertainment, less.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last heavyweight champion? Tyson was kind of it. After Tyson, it just took a nosedive. It got too expensive. When you're paying the fighters $20, $40, $100 million a fight, Where does that money come from?
Right.
Right? People who watch it. So it comes expensive. And, before that you had interesting fighters. You had, of course, Muhammad Ali. You had Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Alexis Arguello. You even had the Spinks brothers. There was always these interesting fighters, mostly heavyweights. They were kind of heroes. But you don't have that. Like, Floyd Mayweather was not an interesting guy.
Right.
Manny Pacquiao was not an interesting guy. I mean, it's just, I don't want to see you standing in front of piles of money and, bragging about your sneaker collection and your helicopter collection. I don't want to see you, fight.
Boxing has entered the era of spectacle. Now it's the Netflix special is where it belongs.
It's a carnival, right? It's a carnival. So, yeah, I'm really not too interested in it.
Do you think Jiu-Jitsu is going to end up going that route? Do you think Jiu-Jitsu...
I think MMA is headed there. MMA is for sure headed there.
Yeah. Do you think Jiu-Jitsu...
Probably Jiu-Jitsu. Probably Jiu-Jitsu. They're going to be... they're starting to have Jiu-Jitsu matches inside of cages. Why would you have a Jiu-Jitsu match inside of a cage? Ridiculous.
Do you enjoy watching Jiu-Jitsu matches? I'm not talking about modern. I'm saying even prior. Do you find this sport entertaining to watch as a viewer?
No.
Personally, neither do I. And I don't understand how people think to make it entertaining. But do you think there's any way they could make it entertaining? Barring striking, I mean, I think 10th Planet tried doing the slaps, which I don't think really did anything for the sport.
Well, I mean, it's, just like if you watch the UFC, anytime it goes to the ground, the crowd boos. Right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to put up a show where people are only on the ground?
Right.
So, I mean, we love Jiu-Jitsu. And we don't find it entertaining.
Right.
So
someone who doesn't like it.
How do you make money when what your main thing is the fighting, but as soon as it goes to the ground, it's instantly people start to boo.
Right.
They just want to see people throwing haymakers at each other and whatever. So
other grappling, like wrestling and judo, I'll probably find a little bit more entertaining. I don't find it immensely entertaining to watch. But at least you get these highlight reel throws, right? You get to see like the big explosive movements.
Yeah.
In Jiu-Jitsu, it's just, I don't know.
Jiu-Jitsu, to me, I've seen a couple of matches, and it's like a bad soccer game on the ground, where it's a whole lot of action and stuff, but nothing's really happening.
Right.
And then some guy's pretending he's, got a broken leg and crying, and then he's up 2 seconds later, I forget who, I thought it was fighting those little guys, those little brothers. One of them was fighting, and the ref kept warning them to do something. They did nothing. And then he finally disqualified him, which was right. And the kid was crying, this and that. It's like, come on. You got to get out there and do something.
You got to keep the action going.
Yeah, just do something.
I do think that it's one of the most boring sports to watch. I don't understand how people.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. If I have time to sit down and watch that, I'd rather go to the gym and train.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And when I'm not training, I want to take a break from it.
Yeah, I don't want to see Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu is it's a funny universe that exists in and of itself.
People think it's way more important than it is. Right?
Yes.
Just love it for what it is. Don't try to make it, NASCAR when it's not.
I've had some interesting experiences. I'm going to try to keep it as vague as possible, but I've been noticing this thing with upper belts. So let's call upper belts purple and up. I think that's fair. Upper belts.
Okay.
That the belt somehow with certain people translates into an expectation of special
powers
when they visit other places. Like, because
I guess the name of the person you're talking about? Is that what we're doing?
What?
I get to guess the name of the person you're talking about?
No, it's not about my students. It's just something I'm noticing.
Oh, okay.
But it's like I always, you know, because some of my white belts who see me interact with people from other schools, you know, they ask like, why are you acting like, you know, what's your takeover here? And I say, you know, if you go to a yoga studio, right, and you join a yoga class, do you get to go to the class for free because you can touch your toes deeper than anybody else? Like, that's ridiculous, right? Because you can do the back bend better than everybody else in the class, so now you shouldn't pay for the class.
Yeah.
But in jiu-jitsu, we have this thing where someone put their time in somewhere, which is, I think it's great. And I think like if you have a relationship with your school and your instructor and you've been training there for 6-7 years, so with your, you know, your sphere, so if you're in like the Renzo Gracie school system and you've been a student there for 10 years and you go visit another Renzo Gracie school, yeah, you put your time, you put your effort, you've given to the community, there's a relationship. But if you go visit an alliance school or, you know, some whatever school in Indiana, let's say, that's no name, that has no affiliation, just because you're a purple belt, the guy should let you roll for free or should give you special attention. Like, why does that happen in jiu-jitsu?
Because people think it's more important than it is, right? I mean, you have pieces of white athletic tape on a belt and you think that, you know, it makes you better than someone else who has less pieces of white tape. You know, the white tape is cheap. I get it at CVS. It doesn't mean anything, you know, and it doesn't mean anything on your belt. Doesn't really mean anything on my belt. You know, I mean, what means I have to defend that, whatever I have strapped around my waist, I have to defend when I'm on the mats. I got to get out there and I got to prove it and I got to defend it. So it only means something to me. Shouldn't mean something to anybody else. Shouldn't get into doors for free.
I've heard in other martial arts, in karate, for instance, and I don't know exactly what the details are, but when you go to another school, if you join, not if you're visiting, but if you're to join another program, you start over at white belt. So I don't know if that's for black belts or if that's for like under black belts. If you're like a green belt or something, you start over. But that's indicative of the fact that you're not a black belt in their system, right?
Yeah.
I think it also sets the expectation that you're a guest here. Just because you did whatever over there doesn't mean. I think people forget that in jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah. We should have like a special belt that visitors wear.
There are some schools in jiu-jitsu that do it. I think they get weird about it, though. It's a lot of I think a lot of like the more Gracie-oriented schools, because they weigh the self-defense aspect of it. So if you get your black belt or purple belt elsewhere and you're not trained in the Gracie self-defense program, like you're deficient, so they want to, you know, identify that. I don't know. Everyone gets weird with belts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Belts are... Do you think we should get rid of belts? Do you think jiu-jitsu would be better if we got rid of belts?
Well, before, I think it was 1968, there was just white belt and blue belt in the jiu-jitsu system.
Right.
There's only 2 belts. And the instructor was I think it was a darker blue belt than the students, but it was just white belts and blue belts. That's why before Helio passed, he started wearing a blue belt again, because he got, I guess, disenchanted by the whole world. And that was 10, 12 years ago, before it got even super stupid like it is now.
Like in wrestling, for instance, where there's no belts. Do you think that works out better?
Yes and no. I mean, it's just people need the carrot and the stick, right? They need the attaboy, right? People can't handle training something for 25 years without some kind of acknowledgement that they've been there and they've done something. Okay? Now, that is as far as it should go. How I see it is, you know, when I see purple belts and brown belts with professor stripes, like, no, that's not how this works. Or the brown belt who puts the red tab on there.
Right.
That's not a thing. You know, the tabs are black on every belt. Why? Because if you put a black tab on a black belt, you can't see the tab. That's why they put a red tab on there.
Why do we got to mix things up here?
Why do you have to? What does the red tab on a brown belt mean? You're just trying to set yourself a little above somebody else. Like, oh, I've got a red tab on my brown belt. You have a black tab. I'm more important than you. You know, just like
As someone who's an advanced black, you're a fourth degree black belt at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that, it's like looking down, like black belt right now for you is longer than white to black, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I think everyone agrees that white belts are their own entity. They play by their own rules. We treat them special, and I think that's fair. And then black belts are also, they've earned something and they're on this end of the spectrum. Yeah. Do you think realistically there's a difference between a blue belt and a brown belt? Once you're a colored belt, is there a difference from your white belt, your colored belt, your black belt? Should there be a difference in between the belts?
What do you mean? Difference in personality or difference in skill?
I guess not as an instructor looking to promote, because I think as an instructor, belts are helpful in just giving milestones of where people are along. It's kind of like stripes, so we can know where they are in their process getting to black belt. But from just a jiu-jitsu standpoint, in terms of knowledge and in terms of, do you think as someone who has 20 plus years of experience, there's a difference between a blue belt who's been training for 3 years and a brown belt who's been training for 10 years?
There's a definite difference, yeah.
What do you find to be the besides
the brown belt's less problematic? Literally, I mean, and I've seen this continuing. Blue belts and purple belts just ruin everything. They do. You get the purple belt, and why is everybody universally know that once you get your purple belt, you don't do warm-ups anymore? Why is that? It's not just our gyms or our neighborhood. It's worldwide. People get their purple belts and say, okay, I don't do warm-ups anymore. What is that about?
It's like the evolution of the blue belt that thinks he knows everything. So now he's got a purple belt, so now he thinks he can get away with doing things the way he thinks it should be done.
So a purple belt is nothing more than a glorified blue belt, you would say. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we could say that.
Fair.
But yeah, it's just you get that blue belt and you think you're more important than everybody else. And then you get your purple, well, then I'm more important than the blue belts now.
Right.
Okay. So it's almost, it's like what's the Animal Farm? What's that book?
With George Orwell, animals all have their own government or whatever.
The pigs are walking upright, and all animals are equal. Then some animals are more equal now. It's just it gets to be that. So it's just like a micro society of the world society. You give people a reason to believe that they're more important than other people. Right. Here's your purple belt. Less people who train get to purple belt than get to blue belt. So I must be more important. But if you look at it like that, but okay, you survived. So, now keep it up, keep working. Don't worry about, like blue belts who all have super fights now. Ridiculous. Back in the day, a super fight was two guys who should fight in a tournament, but they somehow never get there. So let's get them on the mat.
Because we want to see them out.
It just hasn't worked out. This guy's from the West Coast, this guy's East Coast. They don't travel, so they just don't get a chance. So we're going to meet in Vegas, and there's going to be a super fight. Not two, 22-year-old who knows who they are, blue belts, are going to have a super fight. What does that mean? Is it a super fight? Or is it just two guys rolling on the mats?
So
the super fight was like, we're going to have Dean Lister against one of the Avalon brothers because they're from Florida and he's from San Diego. Okay, they're not going to cross paths. So let's have a super fight. Something people will pay to see.
So
that may have been a super fight back in the day too. So
that begs the burning question. I know this is a hot question online. At what point in your jiu-jitsu journey do you get to add BJJ to the end of your Instagram handle? Because there's white belts now with one stripe who are, like Superman BJJ.
Like I said, as long as you can defend it on the mats, put it out there. If someone takes exception and decides to, make you a frog in the road and squash you, take it. If you're gonna talk it, learn how to walk it.
Got it. I mean that kind of goes with the belt as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna
You
wear
want to
the
get a
belt,
blue belt so bad. Here, there's a blue belt, and I'll throw you into a room full of purple belts.
we're gonna treat you like a blue belt.
Yeah, treat you like a blue belt. We'll snap your neck. But yeah, if you can defend it, do it.
Right.
You know. But back, I hate saying back in the day, but when you got your blue belt, people came and gave it to you.
Right.
You had to, it's like I told people, I gave you the belt, and it's your job to defend the belt.
Right.
If you can't defend the belt, I give you the purple belt, and everybody's crushing you. Are you still a purple belt, really, or is that something you got to grow into?
What's the saying? You don't earn the belt until you've actually gotten the belt, and after you got the belt, that's when you're earning by defending it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the title. Like, you're never the champ until you defend the title.
Right. Gotcha.
That's that. But as far as the belt, like, there's a lot of people grow into their belt.
Right.
They kind of flourish a little more after maybe a year of having it. But does that year count towards the next promotion? That growing in year? I don't know. Maybe not.
It's a long process. Either way.
It is. And people put way too much importance on receiving the belt. Like, what, I should have it already. Or, they're almost like, planning their coronation of, getting their belt. And it's like, come on, dude, just relax and train. Just put the effort into training that you're putting into planning out when you're going to get your belt and what new color scheme gis you're going to get to coordinate with your new belt. And, you're Googling, like, purple everything.
That's
on
right.
Amazon of what I can buy. I can buy, new purple carpet for my room. I can get a purple bathrobe. I can get a purple sports car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too much importance and less importance on just getting better.
On that note, wanted to circle back. We spoke earlier about you're discussing, jiu-jitsu practitioners starting in their 40s and 50s. And so I've heard this comment a few places. And there's, in jiu-jitsu, we say technique is important, right? Your technique should be able to compensate for lack of speed and strength, right? I don't know if that's the perfect phrasing of it, but we're looking for technique to overcome superior athleticism.
Correct.
I think people have started putting an asterisk to that and saying, but you need a certain amount of athleticism to perform the technique.
Yeah, you have to be in reasonable shape.
So what's I don't know, as someone who's got a broad experience of jiu-jitsu, right? If someone's really out of shape, how much importance should they put on getting in shape, doing jiu-jitsu? Or I think this question is not for a white belt. I think this question is more for the blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, even black belt, who stopped training for 5 years, comes back, and now they're getting beat up by blue belts, not because they don't have technique, although probably realistically their technique isn't as sharp as they thought it was.
It's rust. They're definitely rusty.
Right.
And it's conditioning after that. It's just conditioning and mat time. You just can't. If you take a break, when you come back, you've got to be there every day. You can't say, I'm going to start off like no. You can't start off 2 days a week because you're going to get, and I'm talking about conditioning workout, maybe not rolling every day, but you have to come back every day getting in shape.
The body has to remember.
You got to beat your body up a little bit because everybody else is looking to beat your body up.
If you were to speak to that person and they were to ask you, what should I be focused on during rolls? What would you say?
Surviving.
What does surviving mean? Because a lot of people, I hear that and I think that means don't get tapped.
No, it means not getting hurt. Don't do stupid things. Don't get into stupid positions. Don't leave your arms hanging out there to get taken, because anytime you get banged up, you miss a day, right? And you're coming back, you can't miss days anymore at that age.
Right.
Because 1 day leads into 2, 2 leads into 5, 5 leads into see you next year.
Yeah, right. So surviving doesn't mean I'm going to play bottom for the first month.
No.
Surviving means I'm going to play as low risk a game as I can.
Exactly.
I'm going to play slow. I'm going to play heavy. I'm going to make small movements, small mistakes.
Yes. It's all about continuity. You have to get used to being there, showing up every day. You have to show up, and that means you have to show up if you're running or if you're working with a trainer or you're going to the gym. You can't miss, because once you miss, it's too easy for that miss to be 2 days or, like I said, 3 days. So you have to have like extreme continuity to get back in it. You can't take off, because that just leads to more time off.
Okay. That's good advice. I found as a gym owner, as an instructor, what I found is a lot of people taking that break as upper belts, blue, a lot of purple and brown, coming back to their original program. And it seems to me that it's very difficult for people, their egos, to handle. When you're a purple belt, there's this blue belt that every time you roll with, he's your rest round, Yeah. But then your knee gets injured, you take a year off, you come back, that guy's been training the whole time, and now this guy you used to play with is giving you a tough time. All of a sudden he's catching you, and these guys, they don't want to go back to the same school. They want to change schools because they want to reset. Because they can't handle their own expectations, right?
Yeah, it's just they're just not realistic. Every day, you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. So if you have a year off, is that a year of staying, 365 days of staying the same? Or is that 365 days of getting worse?
Right. I've had an opposite experience where we had a student in his 50s who had an unfortunate back injury. Nothing crazy happened, just, rolling, a little bit too much pressure, nerve pinched, unable to roll for a year. In that year, more than a year, he's been doing gymnastica, he's been doing the warm-ups, he's been doing the drills, right? He worked back into it, but he didn't live roll for over a year. And very recently he started rolling, and it feels like his jiu-jitsu is better than before.
Okay.
So I think people take for granted also, when you take that time off, there's a difference between taking time off and taking time off to protect the body, right? You don't have to drop everything and stop doing everything, right?
Yeah.
Doing some movement drills at home or whatever goes a long way.
And was he paying attention, like coming to some classes and
he was
observing?
All of the above.
That's what makes the difference. I have a similar story of a student who who just had surgery.
Right.
Okay. So this person was off for 3 months, shoulder surgery. And he's back training, and he's crushing everybody on the mats. He shouldn't even be back on the mats, really. Right? After that?
Yeah.
So why is that? Because he paid attention, he focused, he did all the work the doctor told him to, didn't miss days with rehab, didn't neglect cardio, and came back better than before.
Right. You have to double down on the discipline in those moments, and I think it pays dividends, right?
Absolutely. If you take it seriously, it'll work. But if you just say, well, I'm a black belt, of course I can come back from this. In jiu-jitsu, you're a black belt, but in maybe everything else in life, you might not be. You're not a black belt in diet. You're not a black belt in cardio.
The black belt in ego management, right?
Yeah. You're definitely not a black belt in the brains department. So, there's a lot of mistakes people make when they take time off. You can take time off and come back better if you do it right.
It's a good perspective to keep, and because if you're doing this for a long time, it's going to happen.
You're going to get hurt.
Unfortunately, that's probabilities. You do anything for that period of time, you're going to get something happen where you're going to have to take some time off, whether it's life or injury or.
Everything happens to everybody. No one's immune.
There you go. Zooming in a little bit on Jiu-Jitsu techniques. So we talked a little bit general philosophy. I heard a phrase, Nikki Five Stripes coined a phrase this week. We were discussing something. I liked the phrase, and I just wanted to hear what you would define as this phrase. So he called something the theory of Scramble-Dynamics.
Theory of Scramble-Dynamics. I like it.
I like it too. I'll tell you the context we were discussing is I was explaining my viewpoint on submissions. So like submission cycle, like when you get into the loop where you commit to a submission and now you're in the choke, you're transitioning to the arm bar, you're transitioning to the triangle. Now that you've committed to the submission, you're switching up between submissions, right? You've sacrificed the position, you're doubling down, you're looking for the tap. Generally speaking, if the defender beats you to the punch on the first one, every one of those transitions you make, it seems to me, your possibility of getting a submission gets lower and lower.
Yes.
Because you're responding to their defense.
You're playing catch up.
You're playing catch up. And if you incorporate in that a little bit of space and one explosive movement, you have a scramble.
Yes.
Right? So that's where we started talking about the theory of Scramble-Dynamics.
Okay.
If you were to use the term theory of Scramble-Dynamics, how would you define the law? If you had your book of Jiu-Jitsu physics, we came to theory of Scramble-Dynamics, how would Birdman define that law?
Well, it would be about having something that you did in, like, you knew how to create the scramble from certain positions, right? And you knew exactly what you were going to do in those positions. So you're basically fighting off a scramble. You're creating scrambles and you're fighting off them, and you fight off them so well, you overtake your opponent. That's what I would build around that phrase.
Do you think scrambles are more effective to create defensively or offensively?
They just create chaos.
They just create chaos.
And then it's a coin toss.
So it's a personality type. If it's the person who likes 50-50s, then that's the person who should be looking for them.
Yeah, it's just I think scrambles come from a lot of wrestling.
Right.
So that's where it comes from, which is explosiveness, speed, strength, all that stuff. If you know how to manage that, you're not going to have a problem. But if you don't know how to manage a scramble, then the theory of Scramble-Dynamics will beat you.
Right. So theory of Scramble-Dynamics is good for a blue belt who's trying to tap a black belt one time.
Maybe, but Scramble-Dynamics, might get that blue belt a broken neck from a black belt one time.
Right. What's the 50-50, the coin toss? Where's it going to land, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want to flip the coin, fine. But, imagine if you went up and said, okay, flip the coin. If you guess wrong, you get punched in the face.
Right.
Would you play that game?
I wouldn't.
No. Who would play that game? If it's tails, you're getting punched in the mouth. Okay, let's go. It's like a less opportunistic than Russian roulette. Right? That's 1 in 6.
Right. This is 50-50.
50-50. Right? Why would you want to live off of 50-50?
Do you think there's a mentality in jiu-jitsu of what's the right way of phrasing this? If I define jiu-jitsu, when people ask me what jiu-jitsu is, I say the primary goal of jiu-jitsu is to survive. A lot of people think the goal of jiu-jitsu is to tap the other guy. My perspective is it's to not get tapped.
I think it's getting out of bad positions into better positions. That's all jiu-jitsu is. You're getting out of a bad position into a better position. To me, that's all it is.
So when we incorporate something like a scramble, it's not necessarily conducive to that because you could get out of a bad position and end up in a worse position. You don't know.
Yeah, I don't get too many scrambles going. Only if I'm, having fun and doing something stupid, which is okay. There's a time and a place for that. But if it's a kind of a get down roll, like, okay, this is what we're doing, there'll be no scrambles.
Right. You want to mitigate as much uncertainty as possible, right?
Yeah, you just take people to that dark place they don't want to be. Keep them there.
Keep them there. And finally, is there a technique of the week you've been working on, or some jiu-jitsu technique you wanted to focus on or discuss while we have some time?
Just real alternatives from top of side control, where you don't control the head.
So you're either controlling the far arm, I guess, or
I've been controlling the hips, just the hips.
Bookending the hips. Do you do like a low, like a reverse scarf hold?
No, I'll send you a video. It's called the claw.
Okay.
I have a high claw and a low claw. High claw does the head. Low claw does the hips.
Okay.
But the low claw to a inverted knee in the hole.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. We can put the clip up on the YouTube channel, and we can put a link so that
yeah. Well, I'll film something tonight. It's interesting. It's been working. You know,
why have you been focusing instead of upper body?
Well, we control the head and arm to indirectly control the hips, right?
Right.
So it takes more strength to control something indirectly.
Right.
So if I just bypass that and go right to the hips.
Once you have the hip control, it would seem most submissions we go for, especially after we pass the guard, are generally upper body, head or arm, right? Choke or arm. So I think most people don't like migrating away from the upper body because they feel like, this is where the arm bar and the choke live. Why am I going back down there? So how do you transition from the lower body back into attacks?
See, I would pass that and I would go after the legs. Right?
Right.
Why ignore the legs? They're right there. They're less defendable than arms and the neck. Higher percentage.
Leg locks exist after you pass the guard.
Yes. After you pass the guard is where the leg locks are, not in the guard. So if I pass the guard with control and I have your hips, I have a much better chance of attacking the legs, which you have a much harder time defending.
Got it. And then there's an intention to attack the legs, do you find that your partner brings their head and arm down to you while they're trying to defend the legs?
They bring their upper body into the bad position, and then I exploit that.
Now you have your choice of where you want to go from there.
Just like I start at the bottom and I work my way up. And that's what I do now as far as passing the guard and submissions. Legs are right there. Why would I, go up to the head and arm where they have all these defenses they work on all the time, their athleticism, their strength, everything's up there. I'll just take the leg.
Awesome. A lot of my students are always asking me about leg locks and why I don't prefer them personally. And I tell them my school's a young room, mostly white belts, blue belts now. And I tell them because it just messes up the continuity of how you should be learning jiu-jitsu. You should be learning how to sweep, pass the guard, and maintain control. Leg locks but I think it'd be good for them to see some of those entries. So I think my guys would appreciate seeing that if you could post something.
I'll put something up.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to put out there? Anything you wanted to discuss before we wrap it up?
The world needs better cheeseburgers.
I agree. The world needs better cheeseburgers. I think New York needs spots that have burgers, fries, and shakes.
Yes, that you don't need to fill out a credit app to get.
That you don't need a credit app, and that the burgers don't have some kind of rare, cheese and South American mushroom combination with my
cheeseburger. That's all it is. American cheese and the burger and a bun. Done. Good. Not
awesome.
Crappy. Good.
Awesome. I think this podcast will hopefully pass the ratings board. I think we
I don't think I dropped a single F-bomb.
There was not a single F-bomb.
No, I didn't demean any groups of people other than blue belts and purple belts. And
I tell my guys blue belts aren't real people anyway.
No. What did Nick? I thought you were going to say a different Nicky Five Stripe quote was, "You suck till further notice."
You suck till further notice. I think
I
that's
like that
important.
one.
I think that's important for everyone to remember.
Yeah, you're not important, right?
Not important.
You're whatever. And I was a blue belt once too. I was a pain in the ass. So hey, it's just you're not the man, right? As a blue belt.
I mean, I think even as an upper belt, like as much as you think you know,
Yeah.
there's so much you don't know.
There's so much I don't know. I'm still chasing it, right? I'm going to classes. I'm training with people. I've got my ears open. There's so much I still have to learn. This was not, once I got to black belt, I just did, okay, I'm just going to relax now and collect money on a school.
There you go.
Like the whole thing's been some type of pyramid scheme. But no, I'm still chasing it. I am still absolutely chasing down techniques and positions and working it. So that's the joy and the thrill for me.
Finding new things that work.
Yeah. Challenging myself.
New problems, new solutions.
100%.
Awesome. All right. On that note, we'll call it. Enjoy the rest of the day for everybody.
Thank you, brother. Hey, happy Memorial Day weekend. Don't blow your fingers off with fireworks.
And hopefully we'll have this up on YouTube shortly. And just, John, if you want to shout out your Instagram or if there's anything where people can check you out on besides for the YouTube.
Birdman's Wash and Fold.
Birdman's Wash and Fold. And we're at the 47 BJJ Co-op, although I don't know how much content I'm actually going to be putting out. But